lower.
Oh, that looks pretty good.
It's a pretty sweet spot there.
Yeah, looks pretty good.
We want you to look epic. Just as epic as possible.
Epic.
Epic. Yeah.
Absolutely.
People see you, I want them to say, that guy's epic.
So you have a podcast?
Yeah, we do.
What's it called?
So I have a couple. One's on my campaign site. The second one is actually it's just the Teller County Sheriff's Office, and we podcast there for a while, probably weekly. We'll get back into it here pretty quick.
Cool. That's awesome.
That's excellent.
All right. You ready to get started,
I'm
gentlemen?
ready.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Daily Carry Podcast, episode 65 today. And we've got a guest on with us this morning. His name is Sheriff Jason Mikesell. Did I say the last name right?
You got it right. Yep.
Awesome. All
You
right.
did.
Sir, we're excited to have you with us this morning.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
Yes, sir. We're excited to have a conversation with you. Sheriff Jason Mikesell also just so happens to be running for governor right here in Colorado, and we're excited to talk about that a little bit today. Micah, how are you this morning, sir?
I am fantastic. I was actually running a minute late, and we had Teddy on the other day, who's running for Senate, and we had Max Brooks on, House Rep guy here in my district. I go to church with him, so we were jabbing at him, poking at him about the speed limit out here, and I was going home the other day, and they fell in behind me. I didn't get pulled over, and I'm coming in this morning. They fell in behind me again, and then we had a conversation.
Oh.
Yeah. So when you text me and said I'm in the coffee shop, I was trying to get a picture of my rearview mirror of, hey, I'm sitting on the side of the roadway. So I love sitting here talking to a sheriff and letting you know that I got pulled over, but I got the business card. I didn't get the ticket.
Well, that's a good thing.
That was a good thing. Super nice kid. He was a young guy. So they're enforcing pretty heavy out here on the Parkway right now.
I knew it. We stirred up the hornet's nest a little bit.
I told you. I said you've jinxed me something awful. So twice now.
Man,
Castle Rock's finest though. Good people.
Yeah, good people.
Great agency. So
let's get in straight into the Daily Scroll to kind of kick off the conversation this morning. Let's scroll so that the audience doesn't have to today. That's the point of this today. And there's a couple relevant articles that I went ahead and saved. Starting off, one of the big things lots of people are talking about right now is the Epstein files being released. And here we had a post showing a video of Elon Musk having a conversation with Tucker Carlson. And Elon, in this post, it says, Elon once said, the reason Kamala was getting so much support was because her billionaire backers were terrified the Epstein list would drop if Trump won. Tucker asked Reid Hoffman if Reid Hoffman is nervous. Elon said, yes, of course, and Gates. Now both of them are exposed, scrambling, and PO'd. Source, the chief nerd, and Elon Musk. And then Elon Musk, whenever he has this post below that says, this is how I knew so long ago that Reid Hoffman went to Epstein's island. Epstein used Reid being there trying to get me to go, not realizing that it would have the opposite effect. And Elon shares that email there talking about the Epstein list. But have you caught up on any of this stuff that's been going around circulating with the Epstein files? It's kind of been interesting to follow because you see in the search thing that people are using that it's pulling up. You can pull up Elon's name. You can pull up Donald Trump's name. But everything that's come to surface, regardless of what the mainstream media has been trying to twist, has shown that Elon and Donald Trump did not participate in anything. They didn't go to the island, nothing. There's lots of other people that it corroborates went.
there's a lot of photos.
There is a lot of photos. That's one thing that's definitely continuing to pop up. If you go through X right now, it's a lot of Epstein file stuff. It's absolute craziness. But I've heard that there's still quite a bit of files that are not released yet.
So you're a sheriff. You've prosecuted a lot of cases. You see something like this, outside in. Obviously, none of us have the inside skinny. What's your thought?
Well, I think it's going to keep coming out. You know, the thing about modern social media people reaching out is that they're going to talk.
Mhm.
Things are going to come out, and it's just a matter of time. And I don't care who you are nowadays. The good thing that social media has brought up is it's hard to run on these types of issues.
Amen to that.
Mhm.
We were saying the other day where I've said repeatedly, I think mainstream media is going to go by the wayside eventually. I think the Nick Shirleys of the world and the people that expose this stuff, that's going to be where people are sourcing from.
You know, it's already happening. I'm seeing it. I mean, more people listen to your podcast than News Channel 13.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
We're bigger
That's
than
just
News
the way it
Channel
is.
13.
Look out, Joe Rogan.
Continuing though, if you guys watched, I think this was the Grammys,
It
right?
was, yeah.
If you guys watched, number one, Jelly Roll's acceptance speech was pretty awesome.
Didn't see it. but I
Pointing to
heard.
Jesus,
Yeah.
pointing to Jesus, saying Jesus is not just reserved for one of the political sides of the aisle. It's for everybody. It was a good speech. But then we also had Billie Eilish get up and scream some anti-ICE stuff, and she said, and let me see if the video just says it. We'll just pull it up so that you can hear.
No one is illegal on stolen land.
You can't be illegal on stolen land. That's what she just said.
Is that Jared Leto?
I don't know who that is. And it's probably bad that I don't, but I don't know who that is. The Wi-Fi was kind of giving me some trouble this morning. But she said that's one of the most relevant things that she said. And the comment here is you cannot simultaneously believe that, one, all borders are fake and should not be policed, and two, that land can be stolen. This is one of the most brain-dead beliefs a person can hold. That was really going in for the kill there on Colin Wright's commentary. But I do agree that you can't say that land is stolen if you're also trying to argue that borders are fake and should not be policed.
True that.
It's one or the other. They kind of contradict each other. There was another one I'll scroll down to just because this was showing the hypocrisy. Americans are absolutely roasting Hollywood elitist Billie Eilish and they're asking her to return her $14 million Los Angeles mansion to the Tongva tribe after her Grammy rant. No one is illegal on stolen land.
Do you have a big old place like that?
I wish I wouldn't.
$14 million.
Yeah.
You know what was funny? We're sitting here having this conversation. I have no idea who Billie Eilish is. Never heard of Billie Eilish until yesterday when I saw the article. So I don't know. Actor, singer?
Yeah, she's a singer.
Singer. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I probably just lost a third of my audience, but I have no idea who Billie Eilish
Well,
is.
and you have to wonder, too, and you look at these folks and go, how much grandstanding are you doing just to get somebody to know who you are again,
Yeah.
right? Because honestly, with her, how many people really know or care about her music to
True.
that degree?
I mean,
It's just a bunch of kids.
it's enough to make $14 million house payment, I guess.
I guess.
I remember when that whole Jussie Smollett thing went down in Chicago, and he went to Subway at 2 a.m. and all that stuff. Did you ever see the Dave Chappelle's deal on that? Oh my gosh! So Dave comes out on stage during one of his things, and he says starts talking about this famous actor. He's French, black guy. You'd know him. His name is Juicy Smollett instead of Jussie Smollett, and he does this whole thing on it. And, of course, he's calling it out as the obvious thing that it was, and it was a setup and this and the other. But it's probably one of the best 6-minute skits you'll ever sit down and watch in your life, because every time he says Juicy Smollett, the audience just falls apart. And that's all I can think of when I see stuff like this. It's just it's that 2 minutes of fame. I wasn't getting the attention, so I'm going to go create this thing. And to your point, Sheriff, you can't hide from this stuff anymore. I mean, there's cameras everywhere.
What's funny is my wife and I, we talk about it. The thing is, I don't even watch the Golden Globes anymore. They've gotten so crazy and ridiculous. It's just not even worth my time watching.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Moving on, more relevant topics here. Here we've got a comment by Senator Rick Scott. It says, here we go again. According to Senator Schumer, it's racist to ensure only American citizens vote in our elections. After Biden and Schumer allowed millions of illegal aliens to flood into the U.S., the Save America Act is essential to stop Soros-backed leftists, radicals from using votes of illegals to gain and hold power. And here we have the post from Chuck Schumer saying that the SAVE Act would impose Jim Crow-style restrictions on voting. And he says it'll be dead on arrival in the Senate. This, I saved a second post here from Representative Kat Kamak. I don't know if I said her last name right, but what's interesting is here we have signatures on the SAVE Act. And her comment here was, I, along with dozens of my Republican colleagues, signed a letter to Mitch McConnell urging Senate Republicans to include the SAVE Act in the government funding bill to protect the integrity of our elections. This SAVE Act bill is awesome, and you'll recognize what I noticed pretty much right away whenever I was looking through this is you would recognize we've got on our wall one of these signatures right here. Look at that. Look, he's right up there.
Crazy.
Elijah Crane. He is on this, and if you read through this, I mean, I don't know why in the world, except for we do know why in the world, because they want to rig and win elections without being fair. They don't want legal citizens to have their vote protected. They would rather try to use all these illegal immigrants to vote for the Democratic Party to stay in power.
Let's remember that statement for the question later when we get into this deep dive. I really want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Really, really, really want to hear your thoughts on that.
It's just interesting, all the fuss around this. People just trying to say, hey, you need to have American citizenship to be able to vote in America. It kind of just seems like a no-brainer.
You know what kills me, though, is so I've been to a lot of countries. I do a lot of work in different places. And the funny thing I found over the years is not one other country in the world would go, it's okay for you to vote here.
Mm-hmm.
Or even to try to get a visa to work in a country. The allowance of what we're doing now is different than any other country in the world. We're allowing people to vote in our country that aren't from here.
Yeah.
And the problem is no other country in the world does that. So for all the fairness they want to talk about, why would you put everyone through that? This doesn't make sense.
Power, control.
Absolutely.
Forever.
Can't win a fair fight.
She'd come down to the mat.
Do some jiu-jitsu.
I'm telling you what.
Come meet Buford.
Sheriff, I almost got arrested in Aruba. I got detained in Aruba. I went from here to Miami, checkported in for Miami to go through customs to go to Aruba, went to Aruba, checked into Aruba, leaving Aruba. I'm leaving Aruba with my wife on our 20th anniversary. 2 cops come up, grab me, pull me aside, take me into a room fairly forcefully. And I sit down, and they pull a 9mm round out of my luggage, and they said, this is a felony in Aruba. And it's a 10-year sentence. Where did you get this? I said, my bad. I'm a range instructor in America. I carry this backpack with me all the time. Thought I'd cleared it multiple times. It was stuck down underneath a little piece of cardboard in the bottom of the bag. But I had cleared 3 different checkpoints, and nobody ever said anything. And he says, you understand, you could stay here for the next 10 years. And I thought, could I? Because that'd be actually pretty cool. Because the jail cell from Aruba was better than living over here at the time. I'm like, I could see the ocean. Life's good. Yeah, we joked about that. I mean, but they were deadpan serious. So I'm like, and that was a bullet.
Yeah.
A bullet. No vote, no nothing, none of the stuff we're talking about. Just a simple mistake. And wow, yeah.
Do you
So-
separate your backpacks now? You got one for travel, one
dude,
for...
I travel all the time like you. I clear that stuff all the time, and it was one of those, it just got into a nook. Yeah, nobody picked up on it. So I pointed out the fact that the system has actually failed 3 different times before I got here, and you guys are experts. Thank you for your due diligence, because you guys are amazing.
Moving on, this was an interesting take on the timeline of the Epstein files. This is posted by an account called Fractured Light, and they're going in on the timeline here. You really have to wonder what is going on. This is really weird. Elon goes to the White House with a black eye. It's his last visit to the Oval Office. This is right before Israel bombs Iran. Elon goes on Twitter and says, the reason Trump won't release the files is because he's in them. After Israel's war with Iran concludes, Netanyahu visits the White House to celebrate and gives Trump a big trophy. The day before that, he visits the DOJ, publishes a memo saying, case closed. There are no Epstein files. Then you get this extraordinary cover-up. Trump comes out as guilty and defensive as anybody could possibly be, one excuse after another. Finally, they release the files, and there's 6 million files, and Trump is named almost 5,000 times. Everything they said about it was a lie. This is about everybody that was involved in this. We need to know because we need to know who's compromised. Timeline is kind of strange. And I also think that as Elon has continued to post, and even before the files were released, nobody's been arrested. We've got 2 arrests. If you were to say, because so many people keep saying nobody's been arrested, we've got the arrest of the 2 parties that are from the top down. We've got the arrest of Epstein. We've got the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell. That's it. Now we've got a list of names. I think the most interesting thing is going to be see if people actually start getting arrested and prosecuted. We've got the evidence now. Several people involved in this.
Do you think they will?
No.
Me either.
You know, the biggest thing, though, as you look at is, yeah, there's a right and wrong. But the problem is when you're flying to islands that sit where, you've got international issues in this. Look, you've got a prince that you've got red-handed. He's now been moved out of the palace and into his own, cottage away from everyone.
Yeah.
But do you really think that that's going to go through some type of a process? The other side of it, how much evidence? Who are they going to get to come in and testify to these things? The poor victims are still going to have to go through it.
Yep.
You've got Epstein dead now. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And I just don't see a lot of these folks with the type of power and influence that they have being able to be put through this.
And we have no authority there. That's
None.
the other part.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as due process on this because we have no due process ability there, as do many other countries are in the same boat. So, yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Plus, I think there's a leverage factor that's involved.
Oh, I definitely think so.
Yeah.
All right, coming up for a little bit of air on this next one, a little bit more fun. This is just something that I thought was wild because the freezing temps south and east, this is in Florida. They've been having, from what I understand, some issues with iguanas just kind of infesting the area. But because it's been so cold, here we had this video. This guy just catching iguanas because they're almost frozen solid, barely able to move. And he's just catching them by the droves. And I just thought this was wild, man. Catch iguanas whenever they're frozen half to death.
Spinach leaves. When we were in Aruba, they're everywhere. They're all over the place there. They're like, and the locals hate them, but the tourists love them. But, yeah, I mean, they just come, you be eating breakfast, and all of a sudden you'll turn around, there'll be 3 iguanas sitting over your shoulder just waiting to be fed.
Have you ever ate iguana?
I have not.
I've heard that they're pretty good.
I've eaten a lot of gater, which is very good.
Yeah, I love
Very, very
gator.
good. Yeah.
Gator is good.
You think it
Anyways.
tastes like chicken?
Gator?
Oh,
Gator.
iguanas.
I don't know what iguana tastes like, but I've heard that it's good. They look a little slimy when you're looking at this video, though, and they're just moving slow, half frozen to death. I just thought that was funny, and I was getting quite a bit of traction, a lot of interactions online. But moving on. Oh, I like this article. I think a lot of people online like this article. Ron DeSantis calling for a nationwide elimination of property taxes.
Shut up.
Whew. Man, that sounds awesome. They're basically paying rent to the government just to live in their own homes. That's wrong. It's time to change this. I agree, Ron. I really agree with that. What say you, Jason Mikesell, Sheriff?
Listen, here's the thing about property tax, right? Right now in this state, we're $1.3 billion in debt. There's not a way you climb out of that if you eliminate property taxes tomorrow. That's the issue. Now, if you were dead set zero and you could come up with a way and solution to bring oil and gas back, use some of those funding mechanisms that go to the state to be able to flip and then not have to run property taxes or drop in sales taxes and things like that, you could do it. But all these counties or local governments in this state, they're living off property tax. And you got to think, too, the state is limited because of how much sales tax they're running on things. Counties could never get ahead and keep up with where we're at. So that means you're going to have a loss of services, right? And I hear a lot of candidates, they go, oh, well, I'm going to eliminate property tax. Well, all right, that's great. You better have a plan, though.
Yeah.
Look, marijuana tax, they said that marijuana tax is going to go for schools. That didn't do anything. That went to bigger government, bigger issues. So until you live in government, you are able to get the debt killed. You're not going to be able to eliminate property tax. There's just no way at this point.
So the pot tax, where'd it go?
That's an interesting thing because they said it went to schools, right? I didn't see it go to schools.
Yeah.
It went to what's called enterprise funds, I believe. And here's the thing about Colorado is the state wants to take away Pinnacle now, have the funding go to an enterprise fund.
Yep.
Well, here's the enterprise fund. It's actually a lot of enterprise funds, depending on how you do it in Colorado, are illegal. But yet now Colorado wants to do it because what you can do is increase profit. It's more like a fund they can use to spend on whatever they want, whenever they want, and it's not something taxpayers can even look at. Whereas they're getting around Tabor. That's why they're trying
That's
to
exactly
do it.
why they're
right?
doing it. Yeah.
So
So, in your opinion, knowing some of the things that you know, maybe things that you don't know without being able to actually sit in a seat like a governor's office or maybe seats right under that, do you think that there is enough fraud or waste in Colorado that could potentially be uncovered and reallocated, repurposed to where potentially the state doesn't have a debt problem, doesn't have an operating deficit?
I do. Yeah, I think you could probably eliminate that debt in a very short period of time. But here's the thing, and I don't know so much that it's fraud; it's just ineptness, right? You're gonna have candidates come in here, you're gonna go, "Oh my God, it's all fraud." We're gonna arrest people. We're gonna do that day one. Baloney. You're not. Here's the thing: as a CEO and then somebody that's run a county entity with big budgets, you look at things when you come in and you go, well, if I'm not making this amount, right? You're a business owner, then I got to cut costs. So I can bring it down below so I have a profit margin. And in the state, a profit margin based on whether it's on Tabor can go back to the citizens, right? So if you really think about it, debt zeroed out and then you're able to give money back to your citizens based on the Tabor allowances, you could eliminate a lot of the different taxes or for that year or for that session. Yeah. Do we have massive amounts of money being sent to companies that shouldn't? Yeah. And here's one of the things. Think about your roads and your highways. State of Colorado, you get a contract for a road to be completed. We pay you up front. Bam, you get it. Well, you get halfway through a contract. What do you then do? This is things that large companies like Blackwater or others would do throughout the years, right? You get halfway through a project and then that company would come back and go, you know what, to finish this, we're going to need another $1 million, right? So it's just like if you're building your house and you've paid the contractor the full amount for the whole house because you think, man, I'm good. I gave him everything he needs. He's going to finish my house. And then that contractor, because at the end of it, he's going, well, they got to pay me. So he comes back and he goes, hey, we need to renegotiate that. I can't finish it within the time period allotted. So now I'm going to need another double. So what's the state do? Well, I don't want to lose the money I've already invested in this. I didn't put anything in the contract where it said it had to be completed on a day, or even a bonus system where if you complete it prior to, we'll give you a bonus for completion. So these companies just come back and go, they can underbid it so much and then be able to come back and negotiate it to make you have to pay what it was. That's where we're having a problem with our road systems and completion of products and projects. That's one of the bigger problems.
So there's two roads or two places in Castle Rock specific that this could not be more true. I sat in the meetings. I listened to the infighting. I watched it go back and forth. Plum Creek Parkway, coming down the hill. If you go up one side, smooth and paved. The other side is when they pulled out and said, hey, we're going to need more money to do this. And that road is garbage from the top of that road to the bottom. And there was a huge deal. The funny one is actually the overpass on I-25 coming from the sheriff's office, going back over towards the other side of town over I-20, literally over the bridge. They finished 5 of the 6 lanes. In the 6th lane, they didn't do anything. And there were a bunch of dudes out there at night with shovels kind of matting down asphalt. And that thing has sat as a pothole for the last 7 years since they did it. And they walked away and they said, we're not touching that bridge because you won't pay us. And it was exactly the thing that you were talking about. And I drive over that thing every day going 200-foot bridge. And I'm like, 200 feet. Like, we got down to the last 200 feet and couldn't pull off this, that's astonishing. But you're absolutely right. It's exactly how it's done.
Yeah, and it's the sad part is there's no leadership anywhere within the state when it comes to these things. If you're a business owner, what's the first thing you do? You get on the phone, you go, hey, yeah, that either gets finished or we're going to go after you.
Yeah.
Right? But right now what happens in the state is you have a group of people that are on a committee that don't know anything about business and they don't know anything about roadways. They don't understand any of the science on how to lay a roadway. And they're the ones making your decisions.
Yeah.
They're the ones signing your contracts. And who are they signing contracts to? Are they vetted companies? How are they doing this?
So how do we fix that without having to form a whole nother committee, getting more bureaucracy involved? How do we fix that? That seems like a pretty easy problem to fix. I mean, roads are pretty important. If we're paying taxes for anything, surely we're paying for smooth roads. Surely we're paying for maintenance on just public properties that are used like roads and sidewalks to some degree. But I think so. This is perfect because this is getting us into a heavier hitting conversation talking about this, and then the next topic will be even more important than this whenever we finish this daily scroll. But with the property tax question leading us into all of this, I think that a lot of people out there, cost of living, taxes, Colorado is just so poorly managed from the top down, and they keep on passing the buck to not only the residents but the business owners. They keep on increasing taxes, increasing fees, eliminating, saying we don't have the Tabor money to give you your Tabor check back. All these things that they continue to mismanage. That's why I say fraud and waste. I do think that there's definitely fraud. I don't think that it's even a question. Every single blue state that we're looking at in the headlines on mainstream media, there's independent journalists uncovering fraud after fraud after fraud. So happens that the governor here in Colorado happens to have ties to a lot of money. And that being the case, I think that they've maybe done a better job of trying to hide and conceal things in Colorado. But I still think it's a matter of time until things are truly uncovered. Because at the end of the day, Colorado is a wealthy state. Douglas County, the county we're sitting in right now, a wealthy county. And we are being taxed to the hilt. And we've got pot tax. We've got every kind of tax you could think of. And for us to be operating in debt, for us to be operating and not even getting our Tabor check, there's some serious fraud going on. I just think that that's at this point common sense. So you pointed to profit, loss, cutting costs, increasing revenue. So there's a two-part question. Number one, I think we can start with the road. And I'm sorry to throw two questions at you at the same time. We can start there if that's the easier one for you, is how we can get that better managed. Surely there's a simple answer for that. But also to be thinking about for the next question, I think whenever we're talking about bringing oil and gas back into Colorado, Teddy's huge on that. We were talking about that in the last episode. Is the biggest bottleneck we're facing in that, is that a federal bottleneck? Is that something that's keeping us held back? Or what would it look like? Number one, fix the roads. Number two, what would it look like to get oil and gas production ramped up in Colorado?
That was a mouthful, a lot of questions, I got to tell you. So here's what I will tell you. On things like your highway, how do you fix that? You take that committee that's running that right now and you relieve them of what they're doing, right? If I'm a business owner and I look at Colorado as a business and I know I have a division that's failing to be able to compete in what needs to be done in the state of Colorado, get projects completed, and we're spending money at a rate that we can't, you have to stop the bleed, right? The only way to do that is change the management and the principles of the management piece. So you go in and you change that and you set an expectation on how we're now going to look at contracts, how we're going to look at roadways. You also then get with counties and you allow them to identify their projects to you, not a Denver-based project system. Because really, where's your money going? Mostly around the I-70 and I-25 corridors. That's it, right? That's where they're putting the most money. We're making a lot of money from tolls. Where's that going? That was supposed to, E470 was supposed to be done like 10 years ago. There wasn't supposed to be another toll, and you're still paying tolls. Look, I've got, I don't know how many tickets this last week for being in the fast lane. I almost got hit by a car right out here in Castle Rock. It wasn't, or just past Castle Rock. Car came up, hauling up behind me. The only lane that's open is that toll road that sits in the middle, right? So to escape being slammed into, I pulled in that lane to get out of the guy's way, and he barely got past me, almost hit the car in front of me. He would have hit me for sure. I get a $175 ticket in the mail. You jumped into this lane, right? There's no safe lane to get out of the way of everybody.
Right.
But those are issues in Colorado that we're looking at, right? They're making a lot of money, and they're putting into projects that don't. Why? Look, they were looking at building a bridge in the middle of Denver. You know, there's a lot of problems that we're facing. So to fix those issues, you have to get to understanding on how that organization works and who's making those decisions. Oil and gas. So hopefully that answers your question on the highways. Oil and gas. It's a state issue, right? We are limiting those contracts. Here's the other side of it. You have to change a PUC. The PUC has to be changed. Fundamentally, that was to protect Colorado's
Can you
energy
just-
efficiency.
Can you just explain what that is for those listening?
Yeah, so the PUC is it's a board that runs your energy in the state of Colorado. I guess that's the easiest way to put it to most listeners. That board sets the goals and the initiatives on what we're going to do in Colorado for oil, gas, electric, all your different electric providers, gas providers. Poll has signed a whole bunch of things into effect that stop them from being able to drill, right? Stop them being able to be a producer. Colorado's probably one of the larger producers in the United States, right?
Top 4.
Yep.
Yep.
And the thing about it is that those are job losses that we're not producing. And you got to think too, the EPA in Colorado and the ones that set those regulations have put so many regulations on. We don't have plants that make fuel anymore. I think we're down to 1, right? And they're wanting to shut it down. We are shutting down our coal plant here in the last coal plant, Colorado, producing electricity. Our electrical grid in the next 2 years will not be able to sustain the needs. I read an article yesterday in the Gazette talking about we got to build data centers. Well, what do data centers need? They have to have electricity to run. Their management of electricity is massive. So right now we're sitting on wind and solar is what they want to have us do. Use pretty much that's it. Here's the problem with that. We have no place to take the carbon footprint in this state. None whatsoever. So we're having to take it elsewhere. Here's the other side. Those 2 forms of electricity cannot be brought, or you can't have extreme energy movements. So you can't scale it up. It's not scalable. So the problem that you have is that when you flip on the switch and you flip it on at the same time, well, we may not have the energy to run them, right? Because there's only enough energy for 1 light. That's how that really breaks down. So until you bring back oil and gas and you get them in the house, because now we're trying to limit, systems to run your heating.
Yep.
Right? We're making taxpayers have to pay so much more for their heating systems because we got to go to a new system. We're going to electric. How much is an electric bill for you? I mean, you got a lot of lights, you got a lot of stuff going on.
I don't even know if I could disclose that.
It's expensive as heck. I know I do.
Yeah.
For all my businesses, I pay a lot of electricity. That's the problem in Colorado is that until we move back to oil and gas and we look at nuclear energies, we will never have enough energy in this state to grow. Well, and if you have no growth, well, guess what? You never get out of the debt ratio that you've already created. So when you're destroying businesses by not allowing them to grow and grow job growth and grow all those other things, you'll never get there.
So I have one question. Back to roads for just a second.
Yeah.
You mentioned the toll. I'm glad you said that because I had the exact same thing happen to me. The irony is when it happened to me, I was the only guy on the roadway, and it was in a snowstorm of epic proportion 2 years ago. So I just got behind the snow plow in the number 1 lane. Ping, 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 ping. I had like $700 in tickets in a snowstorm, and I'm the only guy on there. Fortunately, I didn't know this at the time. CDOT can go pull those cameras. They could rewind that and look at it. So they wiped it clean, but it was just the mere fact I had to argue about it. My question is this, though. Did the taxpayers, in my research, this is what I found. The taxpayers built that lane on that freeway.
And paid for the cameras.
And now, paid for the cameras. And now we're paying a toll on the taxes that they paid to put a lane on there. And 3%, if maybe, use that lane. I run up and down I-25 and 470 all the time. I can tell you going down I-25, I'll see maybe bumper-to-bumper traffic in the right 2 lanes, 4 or 5 cars using the left lane. So it's not advantageous. It was a crap ton of money, and we're getting billed for it. How is that not double-dipping or legalized robbery?
Well, it is, right? That's the problem, is that, to me, when I pay taxes to work on a road, why should I have to pay a toll for anything, right? We built it.
Yeah.
You and I built it.
Yeah.
That's what we have done. That's where I'm getting so frustrated in Colorado from the fees and all the taxes where I'm having to pay. And then I turn around, I have to drive on a road now where it should be 3 lanes the whole way up.
The
right?
whole way.
That is a clogged artery. That's why they built it. And then somebody had the bright idea, oh, well, we'll put a toll on it, and then we'll charge people to drive on it. Well, that's great, other than I have already paid for that road once.
Yeah. How do they legally do that, though, is, I guess, my question. How do you come back and say, we're putting a toll on something that was already built
Do those things
taxed and
get
collected.
voted for? Do they get voted for or what?
You know, I don't know if that was voted through Douglas County or not. I don't know.
There's way too much jurisdiction. We just had this conversation with Max Brooks. The councilmen can just go and just make up whatever laws they want. No traffic study, no engineering analysis. They just go and vote things in. And think about that. They pay for, we pay for a new toll road with cameras and full infrastructure, so we can continue to pay to use it.
Yeah.
Pay if we cross the line on accident, even if it's in fear for our life. But they can't even fix miserable potholes that have been there for 7 years.
Jared's very amped up over this parkway over here he lives on, because it was a 45-mile-an-hour zone, and they just one day it was just 35.
Councilman,
just all of a sudden,
no traffic study, no engineering analysis. Now they're doing a traffic after they voted to move the speed limit from 45 to 35 for no reason other than one councilman just said, "Hey, we should do this."
Yeah, you know, here's a big thing on the state of Colorado, right? Especially at a state level. We've been under single party rule now for how long?
yeah,
Right?
good point.
The state of Colorado is trying to move all of the authority from your local municipalities, your local counties, to a state run. Here's the thing about a local city. At least you can still walk in and you can vote against a councilman. You can go in and voice your opinion to a councilman. To a county, you can do the same thing, right? I can vote for a new county elected official
Sure.
who then used to have the authority on the roadways, used to have the authority on building codes, used to have the authority on all these things that now are making an impact in your life because the state of Colorado is going, no, we have the authority now. And you can't go up there and actually talk to them.
That's right.
They won't even listen to you. I've been to the legislature, I don't know how many times, right? Teddy Collins is a good friend of mine, and I met him on the Second Amendment fight in Denver. And I will tell you, that is one of the bigger problems we're facing in Colorado. You now have somebody that's in a public office anywhere, and nobody wants to listen to Coloradoans anymore. It's my decision. I'll make that decision. It's an authoritarian type decision, right? Where we've got to give the power back to local counties and local municipalities so that you can actually go in and make an impact when you do want to say something.
Wow.
I left, my wife and I went to Breck this weekend. It's an annual deal. We go up, we look at the ice sculptures. A little warm, snow's there, or is not there the way that we've lived 25 years in Colorado. It's kind of hard to walk around because it was like 60 degrees. The sculptures are melting. I went and pulled up the map on the way back. It was a 3-hour trek on I-70 after they built that lane, because the lane isn't open the whole way back. So we just jumped on 285 and decided just to have a nice peaceful drive, made it home in 210, 215. But I've sat on that I-70 traffic, and I've watched that lane that is sitting over there with big red X's saying, "Do not enter this lane." And it is closed every time I've yet to see that lane open one time. And all I ever heard is, "This is all the rage." I don't make the whole conversation about roadways, but what drives me nuts about that is they built that thing as that's going to expedite getting the ski traffic down the hill. They built the lane, don't open the lane, and if they do open the lane, that toll, if you go from up there to the base, is $26 to use that roadway. $26.
Yeah.
And I'm going, And that, to your point, needs to change.
Yeah, my wife has this thing dealing with all the fees and things. She calls it the rule of 50, right? And what that means is anytime she goes in to deal with a municipality or have to get a license or a fee to something, it's always $50.
Oh.
So you might as well just take a wad of 50s in and just start rolling them off, because that's what you're going to have to do to get out of this thing. And it's just ridiculous to me.
Well, it's $1,192 the other day for my vehicle.
It's a lot of 50s.
There's a lot of 50s, yeah. And they took it happily.
Well,
Of course it did.
I had a son, or my youngest son. He's in the Army. He was stationed in Italy for 3 years. So he flies home for Christmas, right? It's a big deal. Come home, see mom and dad, get a surprise for Christmas. Flies home. He's got his truck here. I didn't think anything about it. The truck's been sitting there for quite a while. He gets home. He wants to go see his friends. You know, Christmas is done. He's going out and meeting everybody. He goes, "Hey, my license plates are expired, so I'm going to go down and get license plates." I go, "Well, you got to do that." He goes down. I go, "But just show him your paper showing that you've been out of state for 3 years." So he goes down, comes back. It's like, "Dad, it was $700. This is a young private in the military. He doesn't have any money. He's over in Italy. We don't give them a lot of extra when they go to different foreign countries. So he's now having to use it's the euro, but he's paid in American. Well,
Sure.
the euro's worth more than the American dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So they're already struggling. His plane ticket to get back was $1,300, right? So it's not something a young private can handle. He goes down there and I go, well, did you show him your paperwork? And he goes, here's what they told me. The state of Colorado doesn't care, right? And that was a true statement.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. If you go down to license plates office and you are a day late and a dollar short, is what I tell people, it's $100 fine.
It is.
Your minimum's $100 fine.
Yeah.
Where does that money? That's a tax, right? So I was so mad about that, and I talked to one of our legislatures, and they're running a bill to fix that this year. But the issue that I had was, why is it that we are so money hungry in Colorado? We don't care if it's a young private or a young mom or a young single mom or a young family trying to make it. We don't care. We want your money. We don't care if you can put food on the table. That bothers me. And being a sheriff for I don't know how many years and in law enforcement and run my own businesses, I watched my deputies have to deal with that too.
Mm-hmm.
I had deputies that could barely make it, and they were almost on food stamps. And yet, the state of Colorado, every time I turn around, they're raising their taxes. Look, we got people in homes right now that are elderly. Colorado has raised the taxes on their property taxes almost 20%.
Yeah.
And then I got these older folks in my community that are going, I got to sell my house. I'm going to have to move into a low-income rental to be able to make it because I can't afford my taxes anymore. And I'm like, well, why is it when you bought that house 20 years ago, why didn't we keep your taxes? Because that was an agreement with you that this is where it was going to be.
That's right.
When you bought your home.
Yep.
Now you're going to lose your home because of this. This is what bothers me the most.
Yeah, there's a degree of insanity in it because I went, it was just south of $1,200 to do my truck, and I called my connection over in Elbert County. Same truck, same tags. You want to take a stab at what that was?
$600.
$135.
Yeah.
In Elbert County, $135. Explain that to me.
Well, insurance is the same way.
Insane.
Insurance costs in Colorado.
Yeah.
But $1,000 difference to two counties that border each other?
Yeah.
To plate my vehicle?
That's
It
ridiculous.
makes no sense.
Nope.
None whatsoever.
I mean, we could talk about a lot of these issues, and we'll continue to lean into to more of them. But to end the Daily Scroll, because we're still on the Daily Scroll, we're going to end
we got to
this.
expedite. Sorry.
This is the next. This is going to be a segue to open up the next conversation, which I am a whole lot more passionate about, and everybody should be a whole lot more passionate about than just roadways. I'm amped up. I'm sick and tired of the loss. I'm sick and tired of the fraud. I'm sick and tired of being taxed and feed to the hilt. We have a lot of issues in Colorado. Money is going in just rivers that just seems completely unaccounted for. And that's a huge problem. But more importantly than that is policies in Colorado that we have that are just putting children in a place where they are in danger, and it's hard for parents to raise kids here with any moral compass or values at all. And this is the very last one on the Daily Scroll, and I saved this one earlier this week. Elon Musk shared this. This is a post from Stacey Robinson. It says, a jury has awarded Fox Varian a total of $2 million after it found her psychologist and surgeon liable for medical malpractice related to a mastectomy at age 16. Elon's comment was, there will be thousands of court cases of children who were mutilated by evil doctors, psychologists, and psychiatrists, and state officials who facilitated this will pay dearly too. This, I think overall, this court case, I mean, here's the thing. It's an absolute tragedy that it even had to get to this. But at least there was an award of $2 million and a guilty verdict against a psychologist and a surgeon that leaned into and encouraged a 16-year-old to mutilate their body.
Yeah.
And that right now in Colorado, we've got policies. We talked about it whenever we had Victor Marks on. We talked about the House bill that
It's 1312, right? Isn't that the one that I believe?
25, 13, 12, something
I
like that.
believe.
And there's a House bill that really essentially makes it to where if kids go to school, say Sally decides to say that they're Billy, or Billy decides to say that they're Sally, the schools, the teachers, they go along with it. They don't have to notify a parent. They don't have to ask a parent for permission to call a kid by a different name, different identity, and it requires them to affirm whatever the kids say that they want to be. And then let's say a year down the road, mom, dad finds out and they want to intervene. They can be criminally charged if they try to intervene with their own children in their identity crisis. There is huge problems with that. We are right now in our actual laws here in Colorado pointing children toward the fast track to making decisions that will alter their lives for the rest of their lives. Children. And stripping the rights away from parents to be able to protect their own children. We got huge problems in Colorado, but this is by far the furthermost problem that we have. The most relevant, most significant problem that we have is if we can't get this right, what are we even doing? We have to be able to protect our children. We have to be able to protect the rights for parents to protect their children, and we're failing miserably at that right now. I think that that's a huge problem.
Undeniable. I mean, to me, that there's children and then there's everything else. You have this problem, Mountain Teller?
No, I don't have this problem.
Thank God.
Here's the thing I think that's, to me, the most frustrating. Remember when I talked about the state trying to take over that authority in counties? Here's how Department of Public Health works in a county. They work for the commissioners, right? The commissioners can be the board of health for the county. Commissioners during COVID pushed back against the state of Colorado and said, we're not following these things. Here's the problem that's now being pushed because Colorado got so much pushback from it. You had a Jill Ryan, right? And you had a state of Colorado under Polis. You have an attorney general that's going to back them because he's as progressive as anybody. They're going to try to take that authority and move it to the state to where the county doesn't get a say. Once again, when you move it back to the state, you don't get a say as a parent. Now, a county under the Department of Public Health can fire or change anything that happens within those groups. So if Department of Public Health has to then take the case of a parent that has now not disallowing this, right, within a county, and then it has to go to a law enforcement agency, they got to be willing to take it. I will tell you, there's not a law enforcement agency anywhere outside of maybe the Denver area that would take that case. Nobody would. A district attorney's office, try to get a district attorney to take that case. Then the other side of it is you have county commissioners, I know like in my county, that would absolutely tell public health, no, that's not happening, and you're fired for even attempting it, right? Those are those safeguards from the state level. The problem with the state is by taking that away, they're now allowing them to have that open door. There's a problem there.
It's a huge problem.
Right? Now, here's the other side of it as a parent. Well, guess who voted in these 3 Democrats into office in the last 10 years, right? And the thing about parents is Democrats, independents, Republicans, we all want the best thing for our children. This is not if it went to a state vote, it would never get through. But you have a progressive legislative body that is pushing these things against their own party, right? Even the Democrats aren't happy with it. The progressive Democrats are a difference.
So is this all driven by lobbyists on the progressive left side?
No, it's being driven by that progressive Democratic Party.
So just them specifically.
Specifically.
So this isn't an outside influence entity study. We come in, here's what you're voting on, typical legislation lobbyist stuff.
No.
This is a straight up agenda.
It's a straight up agenda. And here's the thing. Those are done by committees, right? We deal with what we call kill committees. Committees that are basically Democratic ran. But you have to understand, the committees are usually made up of Democrats that have been there's Democrats that have been left their position, right? So then the party puts that position into place. Those are usually your very progressive Democrats because those are the ones they can control because they're nominated and put into office by the party. So they want to make sure that those are the people that are on the committees because then the party has a say. So even a moderate Democrat doesn't even get to say what they think, right?
Yeah.
It goes to the floor of the Senate and then it goes to the floor of the House. Well, it may not get through those, but if the committees have pushed it through, now you have more Democrats involved, and it'll push through. And the reason I know that is because I fought a safe injection site bill last year, right, where they wanted to put injection sites by churches. It didn't matter where they put it, and the state would have to pay for those things.
That sounds like an awesome idea.
Oh, just perfect.
Can't see what would go wrong with that.
They never can until it goes wrong, right?
Yeah.
But the thing for parents to understand is this. A parent should always have the right of their child. No one should speak to your child without your consent, ever. I don't care if it's a therapist in a school. This is where these things have gotten out of control, where a school has more authority to speak to your child. If a school is going to have someone speak to your child at all, you should receive notification that day and of what they're talking to. And I think most therapists will, well, I don't have to divulge that. No, you're a school therapist. If there's something wrong with my child or that you need to step in and talk to him, you should be talking to me.
Yeah.
That should be done with a parent.
So here's a serious question that we should lean into on this topic. I honestly don't know that there's very many places that are more unsafe for children right now than public schools, especially in Colorado. I mean, if you really look at everything that's getting pushed into the education system in Colorado, if you put your kids in public school, obviously different counties are different, but even in Douglas County right now, you put your kid in public school, they're going to be exposed to just crazy, woke, all kinds of stuff, right? So how can we change that to where schools become a safe place for children? Parents can trust the schools to be a place where their children can go without having all this woke ideology just shoved down their throats, this potential shift in identity being encouraged or affirmed, because it's gotten worse and worse. And while I understand there's going to be a bottleneck in law enforcement agencies or attorneys to take any cases criminally against parents, what it still does is it gives teachers and it gives schools this layer of protection where they can just do whatever they want, and they're pretty protected as far as their conversations with kids go, which is a huge problem. So to your point, I mean, we need to have some system in place where parents are notified of conversations with children. But the honest question to be answered here is, can the schools actually be changed and salvaged? Is there a way that we can make the public schools here in Colorado be a safe place for children? Or are we beyond that point? Is it to the point where the schools kind of just, if we're going to change anything, it's just a complete disbandment of the public school education system, and we just have to go to a privatized model, or what? I don't know what all the answers look like, but I know right now there are so many parents that are turning to homeschool, so many parents that they don't trust the education that is publicly available to them. But there's also a lot of parents that they may not be able to afford a private option. Both parents have to work. It's expensive in Colorado. The education system and the way that parents have resources limited to them because of how messed up the public education system is, it's a huge problem. And we're paying for that too. We're paying our tax dollars for these public schools that are just being run like indoctrination camps, and it's unacceptable. How can we fix that?
Well, and here's the thing. I had 3 boys that went through public school. Did great. You go to rural Colorado, you'll find public schools that are in pretty good shape, right? Because they're rural. You start to deal with that as you start to move towards cities. Here's how you fix that, I believe, right? And people disagree with me, but I believe that when you have a child that hits a age to go to school, instead of the state paying for a head count for a kid to go to school, what needs to happen is that money needs to go to the parents. If you have 2 children, you have 2 checks every year that come in the mail that are to be paid to a school district, right, of your choosing. School of choice has to be huge. And it shouldn't matter whether you're homeschooling, charter schooling, public schooling, private schooling. It shouldn't matter where that money goes to, right? It should be based on the child, not the state of Colorado saying, hey, no, if they go to this school, we'll pay them this amount. Nope, it needs to fall under the parent. Why? It's not going to change what the state of Colorado pays someone, but what it will change is this. It will change the ability for schools to teach a curriculum that you as a parent don't agree with. Because if a lot of parents don't agree with it, guess what? They're going to pull their kids out and send them to another school. So it's just like a business. If they don't like your coffee, they're going to go to the coffee shop that has the best coffee, right?
Hopefully.
Well, hopefully, right? But that's what you look at. If you're not getting the best service, I want to pull my kids, and that funding mechanism, we're going right down the street to the school that I can get something done with, right? I think that the state does have to have oversight somewhat of the homeschool as basic curriculum. I think that the kids need to have the ability to be in sports in different school districts because I think sports is a big thing for them. That funding mechanism should be able to allow you for your child to go anywhere they want to whatever school they want to.
I think that's a pretty good answer.
Yeah, Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because we both of our kids went to public school, did very, very well. My son, they were both here in Douglas County. My daughter graduated, did exceptionally well, went to the Naval Academy, graduated the Naval Academy. She's out serving. She's on her tour. My son did the IB program, International Baccalaureate, did great. They loved their experience. What's interesting to me is that experience stopped the day my daughter graduated. I mean, like, it was so weird because in 20, when she went to 21, and people blamed it on COVID, they can blame it on a lot of different things. But boy, that's where you saw that paradigm shift happen hard. And it's trekked ever since then. And it's just running it. It's kind of off the rails, like Jared said right now. So I'm with you. I like that idea. I like the premise behind that. I do that with my money. I do that with my business. I do that with my life. I do that with my checkbook. Why shouldn't I be able to do that with my children? The bigger thing to me is I do not like somebody coming in and telling me, here's what you're going to do with your kids.
No.
My wife's a psychologist. She would never do that.
No.
She would never do that. She would sit down and say, hey, here's what we've learned together. Let's sit down as mom and dad and as child, and let's talk about what's happening. Let's develop a game plan. You guys have to work harder on this than I'm going to, but I'm going to guide you. But she would never go, yeah, I'm not going to tell you. That's just nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's a bigger thing. I think there needs to be more trade schools attached to high schools.
Amen.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
I think you get kids into something. I always told my boys, and I've got one in law enforcement, I got one in the military, and I got one in security technology development type stuff. All three of them are doing exceptionally well with what they do. Here's the thing that I told them at a very young age. Find a trade first. Yeah. I had two of them that went out and they were framers, right? They started at 16. They were framing houses. I had one that got into cameras. He was putting in surveillance cameras and things for my company, then working with other companies I worked with. And now he's got a job doing that in California, and he's doing well. He's getting ready to move somewhere else because he doesn't like California. But the bigger issue is that those skills that they learned have given them something to do. And even in my office, it used to be in law enforcement, we were always looking for somebody with a college degree, right?
Oh boy,
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I look for people out of the trades.
Yeah.
I want plumbers. I want construction folks. I want people that know how it feels to work for a living in the cold, doing something that just is horrible at times, that have a skill in life, right? Because they understand the value of a dollar and what they're getting and how much they need to do to get something accomplished.
Yeah. Amen on that. I think of Charlie Kirk. He was an autodidact, self-taught, self-educated. I have nothing against colleges. My wife's a brilliant lady. My daughter excelled at the academy. I think there are things to be had, but you know what she did while she was at the academy? She designed a plane. She was on the Navy sailing team. She was in the outside sports world where you're going all the time. She lived out at sea on a boat that was 48 feet long with 12 other kids, and they sailed and they did races back and forth. I mean, the hard stuff, not just sitting in a Ivy League type school learning something from a book. She was getting after it, and I agree with you. I think we're missing that something awful. I had electives when I was a kid in high school. I don't know how it was for you, but if you didn't take metalworking, wood shop, or do something like that, you didn't pass high school. So it wasn't just the 3 R's reading, writing, arithmetic. It was you had to go do these functioning things too, and I love that. I mean, to this day, I remember the trade crafts that I did, and I use them every single day.
Well, when I went to school, we had area vocational training through
Sure.
a college, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my high school during my junior year would send you to a college, pay for that college tuition for you in high school, and it was a state program. It was a great program. So I went into law enforcement, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did 2 years. I came out almost with a degree when I graduated high school. Almost didn't graduate high school because I hated high school.
Me too.
But I was on the dean's list coming out of the college at the same time. It was pretty hard not to allow me to pass if I'm on a dean's list in a college doing college course loads. But that's a difference though, right? I had kids in welding, all those kids that I went to the area vocational program with, even through high school, they all succeeded, had their own businesses, did great things. Yeah. They did exceptionally well. The kids that went through college struggled after college to get a job and to perform and get there. And it's nothing to them. It's just, I already had a skill set, right? And that's huge when you come out and you're doing something.
Amen.
All right, let's have a little bit of fun for a second. Get a minute to come up for some air. The audience is pretty well familiar with what I normally carry. Same thing with Micah. This is where we kind of talk about gear for a second, all right? I've got the same as the last several episodes. Got my SIG P365 sitting in front of me. I've got my Smith & Wesson Extreme Ops knife in front of me. I know, Micah, you've got your two knives on you right now, right?
I do.
I know. I've come to know you well, sir. But you also brought Buford this morning, so that's
did.
kind of cool.
I brought Buford because we have a sheriff here. I would never not come on this podcast and not keep Buford, that's my 1974 McNairy County walking stick in honor of Buford Pusser.
That's pretty cool.
I like it.
Sheriff Jason, we are curious, and I'm sure the audience is curious. You've been in law enforcement for some time now. I'm sure that you've cycled your way maybe through a couple different duty carries. But what have you found yourself to prefer over others for your duty carry?
You know, I've been carrying for, over 30 years. And it's funny. I go back and forth. I started with Glocks. You know, I'm a Glock fan. I moved to the 365 series. I found it a great little gun. It's got a high capacity. I don't have to, just the weight. But I switched back to a 1911.
Did you?
You know, I'm a big 1911 fan, right? It's not a carry gun for folks that are new into guns. It's something you got to maintain a lot more. Yeah. I just picked up one of the new, I think it's a TAC Ops, and it's made by Springfield. It's the Commander Series type.
Great gun.
What a great little gun.
Great gun.
You know, I've been in the training business for law enforcement and military for almost 20 some years, right? I would do all the training when it came to concealed carry and overseas carry for multiple special operations units, and my company still does that kind of stuff. And I've carried just about everything in the world. But the thing I come back to is the Glock was always just the simplest, easiest. Never had to worry about it. And now with all the new striker fire pistols that are out there, same design, same thing, right? They just work. But the nostalgic piece to a 1911 for a sheriff, right, is a big deal. So I've carried a Kimber for a long time, and then the Springfields, and I've got the Staccato, and I've shot professionally, and I've shot all kinds of different events throughout my career. But the one thing has been tried and true in my life is that there's two guns pretty much, and that's a Glock and the 1911, and now my little SIG, because it's just easy.
Do sheriffs not carry any wheel guns anymore? That's not nostalgic enough for sheriffs anymore? You know,
I carry a Ruger SP-101 a lot during the winter because it's easy to shove in a pocket, and it'll fire in the pocket. I don't have to worry about the slide. So, yeah, sometimes during the winter months when everybody's wearing really heavy, bulky clothes, I like a fast caliber that'll punch through all kinds of clothing. So I'll run a 357, But a lot of the new 9mm stuff, and a lot of the ammo, too, considerations. I run a lot of the new G9 ammunitions just because it doesn't expand, but it punches through, and it makes a wound cavity like nobody's business. I found that I really like, and it's so light. It gives me rifle capabilities at just short range.
Yes.
So I do jump into a bunch of that, and but yeah, that's what I'm carrying now, and I carry now. I used to teach knife fighting all over the place. So I do like the SR1 Cold Steels. They're just a well-built knife, and I still carry a lot of times the little Spyderco's or the bigger Spyderco system, and the Emersons. Those are all knives that I've carried a ton of through just about everywhere.
Tried and true. When Darren came on the show, Weekly came on the show, to your wheel gun question, when they run the county fair, all of his deputies that go over to the thing wear cowboy hats and wheel guns.
That's cool.
For the fair. I mean, it's kind of a, aesthetics type thing, but they're taking pictures and stuff, and they switch it up and kind of go to old school attire for the fair. Yeah, it's fun.
I like that.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, there's nothing wrong with a wheel gun.
Nothing.
I tell you.
I got my share of them.
Man, I tell you what. Yeah, I've used them a long time. Smith & Wessons. I just went through a Smith & Wesson armor school for wheel guns, which I've always wanted to do, and I finally got to go through it. And you talk about fun. They're just a fun gun.
Tried and true. Never
Tried
break.
and true.
Can't mess them up.
And that's a heck of a round. It's moving.
Yeah.
It is. I don't have I have a Smith & Wesson 22, K22. It's old. My grandpa gave it to me. It's a pretty cool gun.
Those are.
But I have a Colt King Cobra 357, and I love to carry that. Have a leather holster for it. It's pretty comfortable to carry concealed, and it's not too big. It's not a full size with a 5-inch barrel, So it's a good gun. I like to shoot it. Smooth action. It's awesome. I don't know, something about it. Something about carrying that, and then a lever gun too. That might be cool. Maybe the next fair they carry lever guns around with them. And
45 70s. I've got a 500 460 and a 454 Casull that I wear on a chest rig when I'm like ATVing in the backcountry, like way out in the backcountry, bear country. So far, never had to use one, but they sure are fun when you get out into the backcountry and you want to pull off a couple rounds and feel the power of that gun. that 460 is some big power.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's lean into a hypothetical here, talking about preparedness and training. What if it all happened tonight? What if this is the scenario? What if your vehicle's surrounded, whether it be motorcyclists, whether it be protesters, whether it be people on foot? They're surrounded 360 degrees, your vehicle, they're starting to smash glass, they're coming in hot. What is your first response?
Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You go ahead.
So I go back to that video. So New York, I don't remember a few years ago, but there was a group of motorcyclists surrounded a guy in a black Range Rover. He and his family were in there, going down the roadway, started smashing stuff, eventually boxed him in. He got to a point where everything came to a dead stop. He's like, I'm going to die. Drives over the top of a few people, take off. They chase him, get down into the inner city streets. He can't go anywhere. Box him in. And they start dragging him out of the car. Kind of worst case scenario. Caught live. I think of that scenario because there's 3 words, Sheriff, as you know all too well: knowingly, willingly, and intentionally. And it pretty much applies to most aggravated law here in Colorado. When somebody's knowingly, willingly, intentionally placing you in fear of your life, you have a right to defend yourself. You can defend yourself kind of within reason to almost any justification. I don't say this to advocate harm or violence, but if I was boxed in and it was just me, I probably would react different than if I had my bride and my kids with me. If I had my bride and my kids with me, I got their first priority. So am I getting out? I'm probably, yeah. I mean, I'm going to nudge, I'm going to move, but if it looks like we're going to die, yeah, we're going into 4 high. We're going into 4 high, and weapons are coming out. I hate to say it.
You know, I've done personal protection for folks. Gosh, that's the cornerstone of my company. When I started, it was PSD.
Yeah.
And, the one thing that I look back on, especially with my families in the car, or it's even me, and working in other countries by yourself, you kind of have to identify those issues, right? Not everywhere is safe in the world.
That's right.
We live in a country that's pretty fairly safe. But getting out of a group of people, we used to use the term push through, right? It's just, hey, you put it in gear and you go slow and you just try to push through everything, right? When they start breaking your windows, things like that, now you have to weigh those consequences of, what comes in the car is mine at that point, right? And I think my family, and I think all of our families, mean more to us than anything. And never will I ever allow anybody to harm that family.
Right.
And I think that's for me is how I deal with things. And it's in what we have done in life and law enforcement and other things. The side of it is that we used to have a saying in law enforcement: it was better to be carried by 6 and judged by 12, right? Or I mean, sorry, it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And that's been lost, I think. And I think the public in Colorado and everywhere is starting to see it. Look, we had those issues happen last year or a few years ago in Colorado Springs. You're probably going to see it this summer to an extent that's going to be pretty ugly. And I think soon in Colorado. And you have to decide, what is your life worth? If it's worth getting away and out of these things, then you need to do so. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I don't care what anybody says. My family and I get to go home, and I watch too many victims happen in places. The state's not going to come take care of you. Law enforcement is not going to get there in time. And if you go to a blue city, they may not even come out and help you anyways. So you're going to have to make a decision on your own now. And unfortunately, if it's a political rally, you're not going to get law enforcement there. You may here in this county because Darren Weekly's a good guy. You may in El Paso County with Joe Roybal. You will in my county. We had that happen in my county. And I don't think any protester is going to want to come back to my county after that. We will arrest everyone if they cross that line and do something criminal. So you have sheriffs and city police chiefs that will do the right thing. But now a lot of police chiefs, especially in the Denver area, or you see in these blue cities, do you think they're really going to send people out to help you?
Yeah. Big difference is, and Darren said it when he was on the show, is he's, look, man, I'm here because of a bipartisan election.
Mm-hmm.
A police chief is one bad decision away from losing his job to a city manager. And there's
Every
a
day.
big difference in those two things.
Oh, very much.
And a lot of people they just see law enforcement. They don't understand the difference in that. You are the high power.
Yep.
You are the high power as the sheriff.
Yeah.
That's the reason I would only work for sheriff's agencies.
That's the only reason I'd be a sheriff.
Yeah.
Right? If I got to work for somebody else and them tell me how to do things that have no knowledge of law enforcement,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
We're watching it play out in politics everywhere.
Yep, absolutely.
You guys have the knowledgeable answers. I don't really have much to add other than vehicle probably really matters in a lot of these situations. And it's unfortunate. This is a relevant topic because we're seeing a lot of protests. We're seeing a lot of vehicles being surrounded and people just standing in the middle of the road, blocking the roads. We just saw a video of a dad just trying to go pick up his kid from school and protesters standing in the way. He got out of his car, started slugging, and was able to push through. But man, so many of those situations, whenever the crowd is big in number, it's risky getting out of that vehicle, and especially if you are completely surrounded. And I agree. I mean, there's the Cooper's colors of the situation, right? It's figuring out how to appropriately respond. Slowly pushing through is a great response. But as soon as things turn violent, glass starts breaking, things start to escalate. Being able in that moment to know when is the right time to appropriately respond with starting to punch that gas a little bit. Hopefully you've got enough clearance to be able to get out of there and push through and punch out of there. But, there's so much going on right now there's been a little bit of a contradiction in 2A rights because we've seen a lot of people on the far left now calling for violence, and we've seen people arming themselves, talking about taking a stand against ICE, and they're toting around with their guns on their chest and stuff. So things are getting violent. I mean, we look at even the situation that happened with Alex Preddy, and he was armed, right? And obviously the video, all that's still being gone through and investigated. But regardless, tensions are high. There's a lot of areas where there's protests where we got to be mindful of these situations. I mean, obviously, number one, avoid them at all costs if possible. You don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're trying to drive through an area that is hot with protesters. I mean, just try not to put yourself in that situation. But if you find yourself there, some of these discussions, I think the audience can learn a lot from two men that have been there and done that in law enforcement. They'll learn a whole lot more from what you guys have to say than what a civilian like me would have to say. But there's a lot of considerations in this world we're living in. And I think that you said it well, Sheriff, that your family's worth protecting, and it'd be better to be judged by 12 than to be carried by 6. I like that.
You know what's sad to me, and this is that we even have to discuss this, that we as citizens of the United States even have to worry about this. There was a time when your elected officials, their whole job duties were for the life, safety, and health of others.
That's right.
That's their only thing they were supposed to do. Here in Colorado, you've got such failed leadership, and you're seeing it in Minneapolis and other places. Because really, how hard would it be for a governor to go, you know what, we're not going to deal with this, go home. I will deal with the ICE issue and go and speak to the President of the United States, and we will figure out how to accomplish this peacefully, right? Instead, they're out there getting people spun up to want to go out and do this, which now puts every family at risk that's within that zone. If there was true leadership, those things wouldn't even be happening. That's where I'm having a struggle in Colorado with. Where do we have anybody that has the leadership knowledge to actually do something about it and to hold people responsible and not allow those things to happen to people and families? That's the problem when you have this poor of leadership. And look, you look at who's running. Bennett. Bennett was a school teacher, and then he got put into an office, and he's kept his office. And I'll be honest, I went to D.C. to deal with him. He wouldn't even talk to me and other sheriffs, right? That's not leadership, avoiding problems. You have an attorney general that's suing law enforcement, 50 lawsuits against the federal government. What's he doing for Colorado? Nothing. He talks about the Kroger issue.
Yeah.
Well, really, that wasn't even him to start with. That was somebody else that started that. He talks about the opioid issue. That wasn't even him. I was a young cop when that started.
Yeah.
I was one of the cases they used on somebody that I had to investigate. That is not true leadership. True leadership is someone that's willing to go sit down at the table and get these things ironed out and not allow it to break down to where your citizens are having to be put in the middle of everything. And that's the problem you're seeing today.
You think that that's potentially the biggest problem or one of the bigger problems we're facing in Colorado?
Oh, it's weak leadership. Absolutely. I mean, look, we're not wanting to give inmates that are here criminally, illegally from other countries to them from our prisons. So then you have a Democrat-ruled governor in the state of Colorado that releases them back on the street to go into communities, and then they're sending ICE into those communities to create the problem, whereas they could have just transferred them safely inside of a prison. So now we're going to do all this so that we can get Democrats to go, this is horrible, you're coming in our communities, to be able to fund their machine to run an election. That's why they're doing it. And what they don't understand is that the same population they say they're protecting, they are endangering worse than anybody else. That's a problem. That's not leadership.
Single day.
Every day.
Every word you just said is so far the best that I've heard yet, because that is exactly the problem. And I think that the average person sees it, they don't know what to do with it, and there's an expectation that somebody is doing something with it. But the reality is they're actually not. This is a mechanism that has been put into motion. It's a game plan. It's being carried out with intentionality, and we're seeing the end results. And everybody's frustrated with the end result, but they don't. In many cases, most people don't know how we got here. And you just explained that very, very well. That's exactly what's taking place, and it infuriates me because I sit back and watch it all the time.
Yeah. So, Sheriff, you're running for governor here in Colorado. For those of the audience listening that maybe don't have a clear picture of who Sheriff Jason Mikesell is, why don't you just give us an overview? Tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us about what led you to where you're at right now, and your motivation and desire to run for governor here in Colorado.
Yeah, it's real simple. So not only am I a sheriff, but I also own businesses throughout Colorado, right? I started a very strong company before I became sheriff. It's a security company. We've done work just about everywhere. I and my wife decided to open up small businesses during COVID because we saw there was a lot of businesses closing. There was a lot of issues going on, and I wanted to make sure that people had a place to work and a place to go. So my wife and I opened up. We have 2 restaurants. We have the Ute Bar, Lodge, and Grill, or restaurant and grill, and then we own the 110 Reserve, which is an outdoor venue. And then I own some apartment buildings and some commercial spaces that we rent out. And we've built houses in the past. I mean, we've done a lot of different things, right, as a small business entrepreneur, and now big business as well. Here's the thing that I saw in Colorado. I have supported candidates in the past for governor. But what I saw was that I would talk to them, and they would tell me they're going to do these things that didn't get done, and they couldn't win an election, right? We talk about folks that can win on the Republican side a caucus or an assembly, but they cannot get through a general election. And then you'll have candidates and people throwing money at candidates going, oh, this, greatest thing on earth. But the problem is they still can't win that middle ground because they don't know enough about Colorado to understand even what's going on. So you get these popular folks that just end up can't winning. I got tired of that. I got tired of throwing money after folks that I knew that couldn't win something, right? I may like them, but that doesn't mean they can win something. Being a sheriff in Colorado, I was watching my deputies get trampled on every single day, right? They're scared to do their jobs because the state's going to come after them. You got the state suing deputies now. I watched victims. I would sit with victims that they had legislated laws into effect that allowed my victims to be victimized even more and gave more rights to criminals than they had. And these are young mothers. These are elderly folks that are having their whole life savings stolen from them, and nobody's doing anything about it. We can go to court. They can do all those things. They can't get their money back. They can't get their rights back. They're treated so poorly. I'm sitting with business owners during COVID watching the state just destroy their businesses. We lost 31,000 businesses in 23 to 24. 45% of the large businesses in Colorado that were polled stated that they were no longer going to invest in Colorado because of the regulations and issues. I'm building houses in Colorado at the time. We were building a house that's in the $250,000 to $350,000 mark, which is, a pretty affordable home for starter homes, 1,200 square foot. I'm paying $35,000 for a lumber pack. That's That's the what you would use for the construction of the home, and we call it a lumber pack. It's $35,000 to get all the lumber there to get this house done, just for the lumber. That same lumber pack today is $135,000,
Yeah.
right? This is just 10 years later. What frustrated me was that because of that Democratic rule across the state of Colorado, it just kept building. And then you had Republican candidates who would run on social agendas. And they had so much baggage behind them. When they get into a general election, they would lose by huge amounts, right? And then you had guys that were jumping into an election to try to build their name, build their donations, build all these things. They weren't running to actually win a governor's candidacy in Colorado. The thing for me is I'm not a career politician. I don't even like politics, but I know how to play them. I've lived in the corporate world with big companies and understand how to deal with sharks. You better be able to deal with sharks in this state when you get into a governor's seat. You better have an understanding of what local governments do and how they operate, and you have to understand how those laws are going to affect what you do. You can't just jump into a race and go, oh, guess what? I'm here. I'm this guy that can change the state. It ain't going to happen, right? And then you're going to have the people that pop up, they're legislatures, right? But they can't get along with anybody. They've not even been able to get a bill across the board in this state. And the first thing you have to ask somebody, did you ever get a bill that you wrote through? Because you're going to have to work with Democrats. You're going to have to work with independents. You're going to have to figure out where that common ground is. And the problem I have now is you've got Republican candidates running that are basically telling other Republicans, you're not a good enough Republican, right? That's got to stop. We have got to get to a point where we are working together for logical issues in the state. Here's the thing. I'm a Republican, but I can agree with a Democrat on the other side that's a parent that's going, I want my kids safe too. And I think that's what's being missed in Colorado is those issues. If I'm a candidate and I'm telling everyone, hey, listen, you're not a good enough Republican. You're a what did I hear the other day? You're a liberal Republican. What does that mean? And how are you splitting your own party, right? Or you're getting somebody that says he's done all these wonderful things in life that's not verifiable by one dang thing they've done. And it's a donation drive. Those are issues. And the problem is if they don't make it through, and you have a Republican this time that cannot make it through a general election because they're unelectable at that level, we will lose this state tomorrow, and we will not get it back. Because right now we're at a pivotal point in this state, and that's what I saw. So I don't do anything that's not strategic in nature, right? I've been a sheriff a long time, been a business owner a long time. And unless I see it there and that the capabilities there and the possibilities, it's not something I'm just going to jump into. So the other side of it was, for me, I am verifiable. You can verify everything that I've ever done, contracts I've done, teaching military organizations or teaching law enforcement organizations, or that I was involved in Texas 7, or I did the Hayman fire, the Waldo fire, the mine safety issues that happened a few years ago, floods. I was in Katrina when Katrina was at its worst. I did counter-piracy stuff in the Gulf of Aden when they had the piracy issues going on. All my stuff you can look at and find is very verifiable. The problem now is that people are not looking at candidates and going, is it verifiable, right? We jump on a bandwagon of something and go, we're just going to go with it. You have to have someone that can step in office and not go, I'm going to fire everybody when I walk in the door. You can't do that. If you own companies or you built companies, you have people that work for you that are Democrats, independents, doesn't matter. The problem is that in Colorado, you need a leader that can step in, point people in the right directions, hold them accountable for their actions, and make Colorado move forward. And that's what I can do. And I understand there's other people running in a race, but you have to ask yourself, are they electable in the general election? I hear a lot from candidates going, well, there's so-and-so's got the money. Yes, so what? We've thrown how many millions of dollars at candidates for how long that were bad candidates that never could get through a general election. Here's the thing. I can get through a general election. Now, money's a big difference in Colorado, but we as the Republicans or any candidate going against Bennett or Weiser right now will never reach the funding capacity they have. It's not going to happen in Colorado, but it doesn't have to in Colorado. Trump won with way less money than the Democratic Party put together, right? The other side of it, too, is right now, folks that want to donate are a lot less than they've ever been because they have funded so many campaigns and so many things. They're just tired.
Yep.
I'm one of those people, right? I was tired of donating to people that I knew couldn't win.
Keep going.
So
This is good. I think people need to hear this.
So that's what I'm seeing. And I'm watching the Republican parties across Colorado. They're split down the middle, right? They're deciding which Republican I want to be instead of allowing people just to be Republicans. And if I have a disagreement with somebody, why is that such a major issue? Why does it have to be black and white for everything that we do? You have candidates that run on social issues. Social issues will not win in the state.
Right.
I hear all the time we're a blue state. We're actually not a blue state. I challenge that every day. We are an issue-based state, right? The Democrats have run on affordable homes, affordable, all kinds of different things for years, right? You had Republicans and independents and unaffiliated voting for them. They thought Polis was a libertarian. He's not a libertarian, right?
Right.
The sportsmen of Colorado didn't even vote in the last election. 387,000 didn't vote. I'm a sportsman in Colorado. I think I'm the only candidate that can say that because I have an actual license, right? There's a difference on verifiable people in this state. And you have 20-some Republicans that jumped in to run on the Republican ticket. Some of them just turned Republican. Some of them know that they can't win, but they're just doing it because they want to put it on a resume. To me, it's not a resume builder. When I walk away from this, I'm not going to go and try to run as another elected official. I could care less. I have a business. I have a family. I'm towards the end of my career. I'm running to make Colorado better for everyone. I was here when they tried to shut down churches in my county, and I wouldn't let public health do it. There's an understanding of those things.
Right.
And here's the other side too. When you get elected into office as a governor of Colorado, everybody thinks we're going to win all these more seats in Colorado and we're going to be able to change everything. It's not happening. There's too many areas in Colorado that you just can't do it at the state legislative body. What a governor of Colorado is going to have to do is be able to educate the public as to what bills are coming. And if they're crazy, be able to talk about how crazy they are. You don't see Polis going, oh, hey, this is a crazy bill. It's going to take away your parental rights, right? Because he doesn't want to, because that's part of the agenda. But the agenda should be as a state official looking at it going, I'm not doing this because it's going to do these things. But nobody talks about it. So most voters in Colorado don't even know that 600 and some bills were adopted last year and what effect it's going to have on you. There should be some form in Colorado that the governor's office puts out on every bill to say this is the pros and cons of this bill. And this is why I'm not going to allow it to pass. The next governor is going to have to be somebody that can stop the bleed, be able to circumvent a lot of the issues that legislation has brought forward, and be smart about it and know you're going to be sued every single day of the week and that it's okay, right? Because you're going to have to face that music. I've done that. I was sued for the last 8 years by the ACLU. I have no problem with that because I know I was in the right and I won. I'm one of the only sheriffs in the United States to win those cases. I'm the only one in Colorado to even challenge those cases. Even everybody thought they were wrong. So standing up for people's rights is what I've done and I continue to do. And you have candidates that are saying they're going to do these things, talking about the Second Amendment, but where were they with the citizens last year when they stood up there for hours and hours and hours for the 3 attempts to block it in committee?
Right.
I stood shoulder to shoulder with every Coloradoan that went up there. I got screamed at by the Democrats saying, well, you're wrong, you're a liar. Well, no, I'm telling you the truth. So those are the things that I have done. But I look at candidates and I go, where were you for the last 10 years? You're now talking about how you can fix the Republican Party, but you didn't do anything for 10 years until you decided to become a governor. That doesn't make sense to me. Or you're a legislature and you brought bills forward that hurt Coloradoans, or you're a legislator that came in office that couldn't get along with anybody in the first place.
Right.
So how are you going to win the middle if you're already talking about how liberal Republicans are and that you hate those people? So I think that's the difference for me, right? I am more of a middle of the road, but very conservative in a lot of values. Middle in the road means I can meet people and understand what they're talking about and not maybe change the way I feel about something, but understand the logic and where it sits.
Sure.
And I think that's the difference in what I do compared to other candidates.
I think it's, thank you for that. And it tells a story, it paints a picture. I'm sitting down last night, so I'm going to take everything you just said and I'm going to put it into one statement. So I'm sitting down with the previous county commissioner, Elbert County, and she essentially said what you just said. She goes, Micah, do you realize that we passed over 600 legislative bills last year? She goes, do the math on that. That's 2 per day, essentially, if you're doing it. She goes, and we're not even in session 365.
Yep.
She goes, so imagine how many are actually getting passed while we're in session. And she goes, now put yourself into your own business, into your own home. Do you make 2 major decisions a day to change your business or to change your home? And then tomorrow wake up and make 2 major decisions to change your, and she said, just think about it through that lens, that the average person has no idea that this is happening. I would not only agree with her, I've been championing this for a while. I think the number one problem we have in this, at least in our demographic here, is turnout. People just, they've washed their hands. They're frustrated. If you go back to the last election with the Douglas County School Board, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head. I should have had that ready, but it was low. The progressive left didn't win on policy. They won because nobody showed up to vote. And right now, I get that feeling. I was in church Sunday, and I'm sitting, and look, I've got Kevin Van Winkle goes to our church, Max Brooks goes to our church, former senator goes to our church, congressman goes to our church. I'm sitting down looking and talking to them, and they're like, yeah, people, they're fed up. They're tired.
They are.
They don't believe in the system anymore. They feel it's rigged. They feel that somebody looked at me and said, if you think Joe Biden got 81 million votes, fill in the blank, ellipsis, exclamation point at the end, you've lost your mind. And I go, you know what? I agree with that. I don't think that there is any relevancy, any truth in that at all. Not relevance, any revelation that is not true in that. I think we all know that something was inherently wrong. It blacked out in the middle of the night, and the next thing you know, we've magically found this stuff. I'm paraphrasing. But I think people see that, and they're like, well, then what chance do we have in Colorado? Regardless of who's raising what or who's saying what, this, that, and the other, because you said it a second ago. You said you're not going to outraise Bennett and Weiser. I've offered for Bennett to come on the show. I've reached out to him 3 different times, and I get the thank you, no thank you. The irony is he was one of the bipartisan people that signed off for my daughter to go to the Naval Academy. I'd love to have him come in here and sit down and talk about his platform. If you believe in it, come in here and tell us why.
Yeah.
It's not a beat-up session. Let's just sit here and let's go back and forth. Here's this House bill. Here's the Senate bill. Tell us what it meant to you to sign off on this. Can't get him to show up.
No, he won't. That's the thing, right? And that's what you saw was he's not been in Colorado.
No.
He doesn't know what Colorado issues are. He's talking about affordable housing now. And you know what he's talking about affordable housing on? It's low-income housing.
Yeah.
And what he wants to do is take it from city municipalities, make it so you can drive down the prices on it, and have Colorado, spend all this money that we don't have to increase this type of housing. My thought is it needs to be attainable housing for people that want real housing.
Right.
I don't want low-income housing projects.
Right.
You don't want low-income housing projects. I want housing that any Coloradoan could afford because we're driving down the cost because we're building homes. We're building a structure where people can get better jobs because they want to put in the effort to get those jobs. That's the difference, I think, in that values of the Democratic side to the Republican side.
Yeah.
That's that place when I look at it and I go, I come from a county where I and the other elected officials drove down our costs so much that we have no debt in our county whatsoever. And we have funds to do things and build things when they need to happen, right? It's an amazing thought. And the state of Colorado should be at that point.
Yeah.
There is no reason, and you said it, Colorado is actually a wealthy state. But we have created the issues in our state to where we can't go forward. Listen, there was a water compact that was done in 1921 with a 7-state compact that manages how much water leaves Colorado. It was done in 1921. Do you think anyone in Colorado's history has gone back to the table to renegotiate that since 1921? Not one.
So it just keeps flowing.
So it just keeps flowing, right? And you hear the state, well, we have to do this. We lost our lawsuit. Well, maybe we should sit down with those states and talk about protecting our water here and do it the right way. You have an Arkansas water project where they're trying to build an aqueduct so you can get water to people. You have a state that's complaining. This started in 1962. You have a state that's complaining, well, the federal government won't give us the money that's needed for this. You're telling me since 1962, we as Colorado didn't attempt to get that water aqueduct done and couldn't do that with what we had?
Right.
That's ridiculous when we have people that aren't getting fresh drinking water in the state.
Amen.
That is something that we as Colorado, we should not depend on the federal government for anything. I don't want the handout from anybody. We can fix it within the state, within what we have, and get it done right away.
So one quick question, and
Yep.
hand it over to Jared and close out however we need to. Sheriff, do you get federal funding for Teller County? And if so, how much obligation do you have to give back to the feds because of that?
You know, we have federal contracts for holding inmates.
Okay.
U.S. Marshals. We had it with ICE until the state killed it. That actually paid for all my jail and everything.
Okay.
Right. It was a pretty good funding source for that. Obligation wise, my obligations were to have audits done to make sure that they were being treated correctly, and we passed all those audits. We don't get as much federal funding as we used to. It's just not there. And you got to think, last year, because we decided not to follow federal laws and regulations, the state of Colorado is losing all of its federal funding.
Yeah.
They're not giving it to you.
Right.
So and the state's now threatening us if you don't follow Colorado state law, we're going to take your funding. But they're suing the federal government for doing the same thing.
So wait a second.
I think
in
that
Colorado, we don't have to pay federal income tax, right?
Yeah.
That's
That's exactly how that
yeah.
works, Jared.
Those listening, listen. I'm not endorsing a tax strike, or am I? I don't know. You fill in the blank. All right. Here's the thing. Well, there's plenty of issues we could continue to talk about, but rather than the issues, I think we focus on the battle. We focus on the battle plan. We obviously know that we are facing a moment in Colorado's history. This year, 2026, this is an important year.
It is.
The enemy is not the candidates that are all trying to run on the Republican side of the thing. The enemy is the candidates on the other side. We are doing our best here on the Daily Carry. We're trying to get through as many of the gubernatorial candidates as we possibly can. We want to have everybody on, have a discussion, talk about the issues in Colorado, talk about plans to move forward. And we've had Victor Marks on, we have you on now. Next week, we're supposed to have Scott Bottoms on. We're looking forward to those conversations. We're wanting to have more of the gubernatorial candidates on. We would like to have them on from both sides of the aisle. But as far as from just right here, right now in this conversation and in everything that we've discussed, the primaries are in a few months.
Yep.
That's coming up first before the general election. Whatever happens at the primaries, whether it's you, whether it's Scott, whether it's Victor, whether it's any of the other, whether it's Barbara, whoever it is, would you agree that we have this not only obligation, but this sense of this is our only hope is once the primaries are done, that's it. No more finger pointing, no more chest beating, no more, oh, they're going to do a terrible job. Just everything that we have, we need to be fighting the fight together. Are you at that level as far as whoever wins the primary on the Republican side?
Yeah, look, that's a great question, right? Because that's not what's happened in the past. And yeah, so I'll help anybody that gets to that spot, right? Are we all trying to get there because each one of us think that we can win? Yeah. You know, and here's the thing for the Republican Party. Most states, you find the best Republican that you think can win an election. So think about this. The two biggest issues in Colorado right now is safety, right? Law enforcement safety issues. And the first is economy, building a Colorado back, getting businesses back. If the Republican Party was going to run a candidate out of all candidates, who would you want to put on stage to deal with a Weiser or a Bennett and actually be able to walk off stage and embarrass them, right? That's what voters need to look at. Because here's the problem I have. If we put somebody up there, and I've said it before, that cannot win, then we will lose for the next rounds. This has happened in school boards. It's happened in multiple different locations across Colorado. You have to have winnable candidates. My hope is that winnable candidate that gets there, no matter who it is someone that can deal with the storm of what's about to happen to them, right? That's the thing. If you've not been in politics, you've not been on stage with anybody, you're going to run into issues.
So here's the important question I think that comes up after you've stated something like that is whoever it is, how can we do everything we can for the gubernatorial candidates? Maybe some of them have strengths that others, undoubtedly, some of them have strengths that others don't. How can we pull together and be there to just lock shields in this fight? And where the other is lacking, someone else comes and says, we're going to do this together. Because at the end of the day, we know we got an obligation in this state of Colorado to turn things around. This is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's pretty much do or die.
It is.
I think
Yeah.
that's where we're at in Colorado.
I think so. Yeah, no, great question. Because here's the Republicans have to understand that you're not looking for the best Republican, right? You're looking for the Republican that gets a nomination. You have to support them. If you're an independent or you're a Democrat, you look at issues and you support those issues. That's what I think has to happen in Colorado to win in Colorado. We as a party have to come together and start supporting our candidates and not be so fractured. I drive around Colorado, and I hadn't been dealing with state politics at the Republican level. We are so fractured as a party. We have got to start working together, put all those things aside, and get that candidate through. How many of us want another loss? I do not want to see another loss on the Republican side. We have got to start working on that. Look, you've got Republicans that just flipped over to the Democrat or to the independent side too.
Yeah.
That's going to split a vote.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that person gets farther this time, but I'll be honest, it is fracturing groups and voters. And the problem is how do you beat a machine that is built to keep Colorado, because they're scared of losing Colorado? Because if they lose Colorado, they lose that progressive agenda that they are driving home in the state, that are ruining people's lives and parents, businesses, law enforcement. And instead of doing that, Republicans have to come together and start loving each other to be able to get us across that line.
I think that's
Well
well
stated.
stated. I do. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Very well stated. All right. So where can people find you, support you, get to know more about you, your campaign? Where can you leave the audience with a reference point? This is where to go to find more information.
Yep. So you can find me at mikesell4gov.com, and it's Mikesell, the number 4, gov.com. You can find us on X. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us throughout all social media. And here's what I would tell people. We need your investments, right? Look at this as a business investment in Colorado. Donate. Here's what's happening in Colorado right now. We always say, hey, I'm going to wait till after the primary to help. Well, we've already lost a race then. We've already lost. You have to help prior to that. You have to support the candidates before they get there. Because if you really want to understand something, the whole of the Republican Party hasn't even raised a tenth of what the Democrats have already raised, right? And I have all the money I need to win an election. I have all of it. It's just in your pockets.
Yeah.
You know, and until we start working together on those things, your candidates need your help. Absolutely.
Sir, we end every episode in prayer. We can close out if you'd like us to, or you can close out if you'd like to say a prayer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Dear Lord, I just want to say thank you for all that you've given us, all the blessings that we've received, and just know that the state of Colorado is on the line, and we know that you'll guide us in the direction that it needs to be, and just love for all the candidates and all the people that are listening today, and just thank you for all that you've done. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
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 Thanks, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, please like, share, subscribe, and we will see you soon. Sheriff, if you don't mind to sign our wall there before you head out, that'd be much
Absolutely.
appreciated.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. I don't care who it's